Hello everyone, welcome back to OCD Recovery's YouTube channel. Today I have a special video. I'm back in front of the whiteboard. I have not done a whiteboard video in a long time, but there's been something on my mind for the last few days, and I've actually talked about this topic quite a bit in older videos, but I think my perspective over the last couple of years last year in particular, has really changed. I made a post in the OCD Recovery Facebook group today talking about this. It's one of the concepts from Dr. Albert Ellis, REBT, and other people who practice other types of cognitive behavioral therapy over the last 40, 50 years. And that is addressing how our beliefs affect depression. Now, everything in the video I'm going to talk about today is my experiences and how I went from a mental hospital, 2 years and 3 months ago, very suicidal, very depressed, changing my thinking, changing my beliefs, which took a little bit longer than I wanted to with sensory motor, to where I was then, to where I am now, which is completely recovered from sensory motor OCD. Has no effect on my life whatsoever. I don't notice it. I don't think about it. It's just a totally different, it's so crazy to even think about where I was to where I am today in, only a few short years. And in the grand scheme of life, I have a lot more to learn, but it can, 2 years of my life was well worth it to practice the tools from unconditional acceptance, moving with uncertainty, and changing some of my beliefs. So let me know what you think about this video. Comment down below as always. Let me know if you agree. Let me know if you don't agree. I'm a little bit more calm in this video because I think it's a very serious video and for myself. And it's something that affected me a lot in the first year of my recovery journey, in 6 months before meeting Rob or really understanding the tools from Ellis or anything like that. So the first thing I want to talk about is, the title of the video is called Conditional Life Acceptance and Depression. So the first thing I want to talk about is the beliefs that we hold that can contribute to the heightened sensations of depression. Because as we know, depression is not just a belief system. It is also an actual feeling. The feeling of being sluggish, whether it's foggy, brain fog, just not wanting to do anything, absolutely no motivation whatsoever. And it is important to highlight that we don't need to feel motivated at all times. There's a lot of people out there that will portray that they're always motivated, and this is not the case. Motivation is very fleeting and very temporary, and most things actually come from discipline and persistence. So the beliefs that we have here are 5 main beliefs. So remember, we have conditional, which means conditions on our life. Certain things need to be a certain way in order for us to feel a certain way. This is the innate, natural way that human beings think. So we have, I can't stand it, my life is terrible, I don't deserve this, life always picks on me, and life is not fair. One thing they know in the research, Albert Ellis stated this, and it's pretty substantiated in the last 50 years of cognitive behavioral research. Remember, REBT first came out in 1955 and then was put into practice by Ellis and some other people he was talking to, Aaron Beck and other people mentioned throughout the books. 1959 to 1980 was really where it became kind of more mainstream and took over in a lot of ways the psychoanalysis view of diving into the past, which we know is not really good for OCD. Now, when they look at people who are depressed, MDD, major depressive disorder, and other sorts of mental illnesses, one thing they noticed among these people is they have much more irrational beliefs than people that might just have daily problems. And they still have irrational beliefs, but to the point where it's really affecting the quality of their life, right? 0 being absolutely no effect, 10 being absolutely bedridden. For an example, severe contamination OCD, Moment confined to his bed for years. Couldn't even, 2 hours to go get a glass of water. That's how bad his contamination OCD. So quality of life, 10 on the low spectrum, and 0 being no symptoms. And when they talk to these people, these are the type of things they have. And what do they all stem from? Overgeneralizations and catastrophic proportions of thinking. So they think in very catastrophic black and white terminologies right now, this very second, and that's the way they kind of see things. Now, the same applies for anxiety. These beliefs are very similar to the way that we handle breaking down the beliefs of anxiety. I can't stand the sensation. This shouldn't be happening to me, so forth and so forth. Conditional life acceptance. Now, how do we break this down? In the books, not just REBT, anyone who really understands cognitive behavioral therapy and REBT mixed together, because they're very similar. REBT is a little bit more emotive and has a little bit more behavioral changes with more shame attacking exercises, but you could talk to anyone who understands cognitive behavioral therapy, has read books on it and practice it, or they preach it, or they're a therapist, a coach, whatever it may be. So most people, and the way we're innately kind of brought up to think, is A equals C, right? That person made me mad. The activating event, the life structure, is what's causing the C, the emotional disturbance. And that could be for a good thing too, like, I got married, so I'm happy. Well, there's people that get married and they're not happy. So the act is the same, right? The act is exactly the same. There are people out there probably on their wedding day thinking, what the heck am I doing? Well, they're both getting married. Someone's infatuated and someone just is not happy when they're on the altar. The belief is different. That's really the main thing going on right there. That's hard to really wrap your head around. So activating event equaling emotional consequence, we know that's not true, not directly. This was more the Freudian way of thinking. We now know that the belief system we hold is really the primary factor on that. Let me give you an example. Car accident is the easiest one, right? 100 people get into a motor vehicle accident in the same exact way, all 100 people. They're not all going to act the same way. Maybe 7 people get depressed, right? And they all have the same injuries. Let's say they all break their arm. 7 people get depressed. 20 people get just angry. Some people forgive the other person, but they're still upset, but they're not catastrophizing. The activating event is the same, but the belief system that they're holding is absolutely dictating the emotional outcome. And where does that come from? The beliefs you currently hold, societal beliefs, what you've been brought up around, your conditioning, your environment. So many different things leading to that. And that's really kind of how we break down these pieces over time. So we have those irrational beliefs, those demands, those shoulds, those musts, and those oughts. Excuse me. So there's certain ways that must and shoulding it can be used in a good way. There are examples, right? I want to graduate college, so I must read. If you don't read and study, you probably aren't going to pass the test. Not everyone. There's very smart people out there, book smart, that don't have to study a whole lot. I know a couple of them. But we're just talking about in the general sense of this actual example. But the way that musts and shoulds are used in this example, right, conditional life acceptance, using OCD for the rest of the video, having OCD, right? I had sensory motor OCD really bad. I still have OCD, more than likely genetic. Not chronically suffering right now, nothing like, not even close to like I was. Recovered from sensory motor, no effect on my life whatsoever. Pre-sensory motor type feelings, but a much more rational person. So I thought that the development of OCD, because the symptoms were so severe, was absolutely causing my depression. Those symptoms were not comfortable. I did not agree with those symptoms. I didn't like them, but once I learned that my hating and my catastrophizing about those feelings was really the determining factor leading to my depression. This is something that Albert Ellis talked about for 50 to 70 years of psychotherapy, all the books he read, all the articles, all the people he taught over the world. Whether people agreed or not, that's okay. This is just what worked for me, in my opinion, and what I think makes the most sense from a rational perspective. And then we have the rational beliefs, right? So the rational beliefs we have are preferences, dislike over catastrophizing, and unconditional acceptance. Now, this can't be snapped into place. It took me the better part of 24 months, 2 years to really get to where I am today, which is a much more rational person. Whether I'm met with adversities from disagreements from people or adversities in my life, things going wrong in my business, and just life, right? Just life. It doesn't get me anywhere near the black and white 0 to 100 thinking I had. There's no real way for depression to ever latch for me again, no matter what the circumstance may be. I mean, I've lost my father, I lost my aunt, I lost my dog. I see that in a much more rational sense than what I did before, where I just would get very, very upset and be like, this is unfair. Why would this happen? And I did have beliefs like that. I just didn't really talk about them a lot. So I want to talk about the last thing here. I think it's important to bring this one in a little bit because it is a topic that's, in my opinion, still very much up in the air. And I'm just going to give you what my opinion on this. The chemical imbalance theory, right? Serotonin and dopamine. Let's go with those two hormones or neurochemicals, whatever you want to call them. People think that those being out of whack is the cause of your depression. Maybe, could be. I don't agree with that. Do I think they're maybe out of whack when you are depressed? Sure. Anecdotally, probably what we see is the belief system we're holding currently is actually more than likely, no way to prove it, determining the imbalance within your chemicals. If you feed yourself negativity all day, OCD or not, and you're constantly angry and pissed off and feelings of rage, I guarantee the chemical imbalance in your brain is probably off. just simple common sense to me, the way it worked for me, maybe not for everyone. I'm more than willing to have a discussion about this in the discussion box down below. Tell me what you think about it or not. So we don't need to understand the chemical imbalance theory to get better. I've never met one person that said, ooh, if I didn't understand serotonin and dopamine, if I didn't understand the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, if I didn't understand any of the, the connections within the brain, neuroplasticity, the thalamus, I couldn't get better. You don't need to understand any of that. What you do need to understand is how OCD works. Backdoor spikes are happening to pull you back in because it wants to pull you back in and keep you safe. More than likely going to have many ups and downs. So actually understanding the mechanisms of how OCD works in practicality and not actually understanding the neurophysiology of how OCD works. Leave that up to the researchers for them trying to find a cure, an actual cure, which would more than likely have to be some sort of gene splicing, DNA, Neuralink, or something like that. Right now, irrelevant. It's not out. Maybe it will be out in the future. Who knows? But this is what we know how to recover. Unconditional self-life, other acceptance, uncertainty, facing fears, time, and patience. Short list, but a journey that's up and down and all over the place like this. Sorry if that was a little fast and talking. You might want to go back and watch that. So the number one thing about the chemical imbalance theory that doesn't really make any sense. Now, medications are great. 75% in some of the literature show that anxiety-based disorders, whether it's PTSD, OCD, GAD, BDD, body dysmorphic disorder, when people take medications, it helps take the edge off. But what we see and what I've seen is if people just take medications and they don't work on their beliefs, they might not get this far. But medications are great. I've never taken them, so I have no experience with them. I know many people who have. Kirsty's on them, Sophia's on them, and they've seen great benefit with that, but they also had to work on their beliefs as well. And it wasn't just left up to the medications. And people, you don't know what you don't know, I always say. I don't know about plumbing. I don't know. I know a damn good amount about OCD. A lot. And how to annoy people. I'm really good at that. I have a PhD in that, especially my wife. Ask her. So, but, they help save lives. If the chemical imbalance theory was the way we think it is, as soon as we took an SSRI or a tricyclic antidepressant, again, I'm not giving recommendations on medication, just in theory. If you took them and there was a chemical imbalance theory, as soon as the balance was corrected, you would be immediately cured. Not recovered. You would be cured because it would fix the chemical imbalance theory if that was the genesis of your depression. Your chemical imbalance is more than likely messed up. You got OCD, all that stuff, something you got to accept, but we don't have to worry about that to get better. So thank you so much for watching this video. This is a great topic to cover. There's someone that wanted me to make this video. You're welcome. You know who you are. Female. She's great. This is just something to think about. Let me know what you think again. Share the video with other people. Maybe you know people who might be suffering with depression or not feeling too good. They're down a lot and you see some beliefs in them. This is going outside OCD. This is going outside the realm of just OCD suffering. I'm touching on the anxiety-based disorders. I'm talking about people who just are depressed. They have no motivation because they think they always have to be motivated all the time, which is completely nonsensical bullshit. Goes my jersey a little bit. So thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and have a great day.